Namaste. What are the priorities in life in your view? Could you list the top three? Guess what three? I love you. I've always loved you. But I would give four. The fourth one is coffee. That's, I don't know what top priority for me is the end of suffering. And if I get that right, then I can see that generosity is the end of suffering. Sila is the end of suffering. Humor, humor is the end of suffering. Coffee is the beginning of suffering or whatever. Because if you don't resolve the inner conflicts, everything seems really quite so what. But also, I think once you've started to meditate and once you've kind of opened the doors to Dhamma, if you don't honor that, you feel like your life is you're like it, what is it? It's a feeling like you're not like you're cheating, but you're not really doing what you know you should be doing. It's not a good feeling because like someone who doesn't open to Dhamma, they don't really care. And they just get on with whatever way they live their lives. And if they're deluded, they're deluded. If they're not, they're not. But there's something about the barami we have of opening. And what is it? It's taking responsibility for your inner world. You realize that it's no one's fault. There's no blame, but there is a path. There is a way to work. There is a way to do this. So you have that. That's part of the insight I think an authentic Buddhist practice rather than a cultural Buddhist practice. It's something really authentic, which is the insight for any truly spiritual being, even if they've never met Buddhism. That sense of inner responsibility. Also, the sense of, for me, I call it otherness. That deep peace of consciousness which we sometimes touch or we see in others. And once you sort of tasted that, there's no way you can rest. You must, there's something impels you to look at that and understand that. If you don't, then you tend to have to be distracted, I guess. And then the distractions become less meaningful and maybe more exaggerated. Especially like if you have no inner world and your life is becoming, you're not, people aren't facing their fears and angers, then sometimes the distractions are like alcohol or promiscuity, or those are the extremes of that kind of a life. Whereas if you really honor the teaching, then you start to be serious. Like I know I joke a lot, but we're pretty serious people. To do this takes a serious commitment. It's how many people have the quam oton to do this, have the fortitude, have the even interest. I think I don't know about you, but probably most of your non-Dharma friends will think, why would he do this for 10 days? You could go to skiing in Switzerland and do something really important, or shopping in Japan. But all of us know, at least except for me, that shopping in Japan is not all that satisfying. You get something and it's a nice, it's sanook, and you eat some sushi or whatever you do, but then you're back again. Whereas if you really work on your heart and your mind, then having fun things is fine. It's because it's not the only meaning you have in life. So in terms of Buddhist doctrine, Sila Samadhi Panya, top three, you could say that, and a good moral life, a life of service and generosity and giving, and a life of mental composure. Samadhi doesn't necessarily mean high states of samadhi. It means a mind which has a stable platform for investigation of the way things are, for panya to function. If you don't have that, you're scattered all over the place. You're just jumping around. So that's good enough. Sila Samadhi Panya. And I mean, Buddhism's great on lists. So we could do the 10 paramitas. We could do how many Pakya Dhammas do we have? The 27 Pakya Dhammas. And so you can go lists and lists and lists and lists. In terms of mm, like livelihood, to me, right livelihood is obviously has sila in it and hopefully has some sense of giving and serving if possible, but that it has enough space for contemplation. So a livelihood which is so busy and so stressed that you're starting to get burned out is definitely the wrong livelihood. Because if you get burned out with the pressures and stresses of livelihood, of the business world or whatever, then your mind takes a long time to recover. Those kind of burnout situations, they're very hard on the mind. So it's not so much and what is it? So what is the space of contemplation? Well, that at the end of the day, you can reflect on what happened and next day be a bit better at it. Not just your job, more your inner world. And that if you're having problem with a manager or an employee or whatever, that you can use that for your Dhamma practice. Those kinds of things. So then the work situation becomes a vehicle. So that you don't have to just come to a retreat to recover from from 10 months of stressed out work. Oh God. And then your mind just melts for 10 days. Oh, that was nice. Back into the war zone again. I mean, it's good to do. This is a great thing to do, retreat, but you want to get enough mindfulness ongoing so that the arising of dukkha, classically, its cause, and how the ego comes up, how the habits manifest, that you can begin to see them. So, like, say, right livelihood for me as a bhikkhu, I worked through much of my social anxiety by being in leadership positions and having to do public speaking, right? And wear a robe in public. That's you can't hide. I talk about that oftentimes when I go in the airports. Not now, I love it, but I don't love it. It's okay. But I used to feel so self-conscious. So you wouldn't believe how, well, please don't look at me. And everyone's looking at you. So, but well, it wasn't really stressful, but that dukkha situation was doable for me. I could observe self-consciousness and social anxiety. So it became a vehicle for liberating my mind from social anxiety. However, if I was working I don't know, in some situation where my social anxiety was triggered by people who were dysfunctional, people who had multiple personality disorder, people who were manipulating me, where there was a lot of politics in the office, and I was just getting so stressed out and anxious that I didn't understand it, then it's obviously not useful. It's worse. It's worse than that. But to have a situation where you're not happy, well, that's normal, right? To think you can never find a job which is perfect or relationships which are perfect, but that you have enough space to work with it. So giving public talks for me, I would just go to my body and I'd see my mind trying to figure out a Dhamma talk. I'd say, no, 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 back to the body, back to the body, back to the body. Then I'd go to the toilet 5 times. I was really that bad. that it was the greatest laxative you've ever seen. So I mean, it was serious stuff, but I knew it was safe. I knew people would, they would still feed me the next day and take care of me. And everyone was very kind. So it was just my own karma, which I had to experience. But again, it was experienced in a way that I could be mindful. Mindfulness didn't mean that I didn't experience it. In fact, I had to. Uh, make me a medic in Gaza. I'm sure I'd get PTSD and my brain I'd be fried. Most of us would be. Most of us would be. So there are situations of stress which are okay and some which are not okay. It depends on your personality then. Um, I think for me, service is when you get the opportunity, like the story of the Afghani refugees that we got the meals for. Gosh, that was great. Or just the non thing. I mean, the angel group set it all up, the non-medical initiative, and I could just float in. Oh, watch out, watch out. And then I could float out. It was great. I didn't have any work, no responsibility. They did all the work, but it was inspiring. It was so the dentists and doctors and all kinds of people helping, and it was really one of the high points. Yeah, it really was. So, to be able, if you have the resources to do those kinds of things, that's very important, very meaningful. Anyway, I think we should maybe do some meditation because I'm going to have an interview at 3. So let's do some meditation. So let's set up the meditation. Very simple, awakening or knowing how you are right now, physically, emotionally, environmentally. What's the whole situation like now? That means what? You mean you stop and you notice. So whatever you're thinking about, you let it go and you just notice how it is right now. And so right from the start, you remember Puru, the knowing. And notice you're not trying to get anything. So that's non-becoming, not trying to get anything. Just this present moment feels like this. Establish that first, not going anywhere. And then not resisting, not pushing something away, welcoming everything. Present moment awareness. And then not being lost in sense experience, just knowing sense experience. So that's the balance of desirelessness. There's no bhava tanha, it's just knowing. There's no vibhava tanha, you're not getting rid of or resisting. And there's no kama tanha, you're not lost in consuming experience. So this is desirelessness, non-desire. Very simple. And then how do you maintain that? Thinking comes up, then you try to get rid of thinking. What's the desire? Wake up to desire. Let go of desire. Okay, let's practice silently.